The debate over bringing down white students centered on organizing. SNCC saw itself as an organization of organizers trying to cultivate local leadership. We didn't see ourselves as leaders, we ourselves as organizers. And that's important to understanding the debate over the summer project and bringing down these students, because too often this argument is racialized. You know, that those who oppose the summer project, and let me state right up front, I was opposed to the summer project. Those who were opposed to the summer project were opposed to whites coming down into Mississippi. And I suppose there is a racial thread that runs through this argument. But more importantly, we felt we had been working in the state now almost 3 years, a little over two, maybe 2.5 years, full-time. And we were just beginning to see the emergence of the kind of grassroots community organizations that Ms. Baker had been stressing was important. We felt that to bring down, and we were talking about upwards of 1,000 volunteers, is to really risk trampling these still fragile grassroots we were trying to develop. For instance, if you're organizing and you're going to have a meeting at the local church or a local church, and you need to pass out leaflets, and you have a high school person, say a young girl, and she takes a half an hour to type out one paragraph leaflet calling for a meeting, and another half an hour to run it off. But at the end of the process, she feels like this is something she's done for the movement. She's not just handing out leaflets, she's handing out the leaflet that she typed, that she's invested in the movement. Now we know full well that if we have a summer volunteer from Brown University, that he or she can knock out the leaflet in 2 or 3 minutes, you know, run it off in another 5 minutes and not give it any more thought. It's more efficient to use. But in a political sense, what you want is the high school student to do this, to be invested in this. And what our fear was that to have all of these college students, whether they came from Howard University or Harvard University, all in the state at once, that they would just take over in this fashion. All of a sudden, the people we were working with would have less investment in this struggle. Now it's interesting. Almost all of the organizers like me were opposed to the summer project, but virtually all of the community people we worked with were for it. Mrs. Hamer was for it. She backed me up in a corner and she says, "Charlie, I'm glad you came here. I want more people to come here." It's also how do you argue against that? My view was the organizer's view, but from Mrs. Hamer's point of view and other community people in these communities, it was a good thing to have people from the outside. It made them less alone, less exposed. More people were paying attention to that because it was a good thing. So the summer project, in the final analysis, proceeds because you can't argue against that. You can't, on the one hand, be in a community, say, we think you have a right to make the decisions affecting your life. And then turn around and say, well, I don't like your decision. So I'm not going to support you. You can't do that. As a practical matter, we knew that if you wanted to get some attention paid to what was going on in Mississippi, well, you bring the country's children to Mississippi, and the country will start to pay attention. And tragically, that's exactly what happened in the wake of the murders of James Chaney and Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman. And if the country started to pay attention to Mississippi, the country would have to begin to provide protection that they had never provided before, because they would pressure, if only for the sake of their own kids, the federal government